man is back.
Oh, my gosh, Durant got messed up. This is a 5 out of freaking 5.
It is beat making time.
Next week is E3 week. My album comes out next week.
I have the leopard.
This is your boy. All right, ladies and gentlemen of the YouTube citizens, y'all know who this is. This is your boy, That's True Inferno. Back at it with another Pokemon Unite commentary video gameplay for you guys. And we got some breaking news. So for those of you who haven't heard or have not been following the NBA, but want to, wherever the case may be, yes, Steve Nash is out as the Brooklyn Nets head coach. So if you're in the NBA world, more likely you have heard about this, but if you haven't, here it is. So what happened? They parted ways. Like, Steve Nash, 7 games into the season, was like, yeah, he wanted to be released because the word is that the team are not responding to him. That's the word, that the team, as in the players, are not responding to him. So, and with Brooklyn start off at a 2-5 record, I guess he said it's time for him to go. Now, I think it's more to it than that, because let's be real. Kyrie got the whole anti-Semitic situation going, which is crazy. Ben Simmons, afraid to shoot still, and when he does indeed shoot, which is in this case a layup, he airballs it, and now he's injured again. So you got that going on. Joe Harris is injured and hasn't come back yet. Either Joe Harris, no, it's Steph Curry. One of those two. But there's just a lot going on. There's a lot going on with this squad, and they're underachieving. Severely underachieving. And with that and the whole Kyrie situation and Ben Simmons, him refusing to shoot, so now he's injured. Steve Nash was like, and then the team that responded to him, they just said, you know what, it's time for him to go. And Steve said it's time for me to go. And they both came together. It was like, yo, let's get this done. And Steve Nash is out. So very interesting stuff right there. Now, what makes this even more interesting is that the Brooklyn Nets are finalizing a deal to hire the suspended Boston Celtics head coach, Ime Udoka. Now, I did a video on this a few weeks back about the whole Ime Udoka situation, about how he had an affair with a female employee within the Boston Celtics organization. Obviously, Ime was the head coach of the Boston Celtics, when this happened. And they basically put him, under the bus. The co-owner of the team put him under the bus. Well, apparently, Boston is willing to let him go, so Brooklyn can hire him, and there's no, as far as I know anyway, there's no deal at the moment. Now, let me read this from ESPN.com. Boston is not requiring draft compensation from Brooklyn to hire Udoka, but there are discussions that are taking place before a deal can be finalized, sources say. So something might happen, like maybe some cash or something like that. We don't know, but it's going to be very, very interesting. Now, let me get back to the whole Steve Nash scenario. So, I'll be honest. Steve Nash did not deserve the job. I'm not saying he's a bad coach. I mean, overall, the Brooklyn Nets under Steve Nash had a winning record. They just underachieved because when you have Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving on the same squad, what's most people going to think will happen with that squad? They're going to be winning championships because you got Kevin Durant, who, in my opinion, is the second best player in the world. Some might say he's the best or whatever the case may be. And then you got Kyrie, who is top 10, top 15 player in the world. When you got two guys like that in the same squad, they should be winning championships. But yet, it hasn't happened. They haven't even been to the finals. So, now that I think about it, they haven't even been to the Eastern Conference Finals, for that matter. Wow. So, a lot. Yeah, they underachieved. They underachieved severely. Again, I'm not saying Steve Nash is a terrible coach. The reason why I say he didn't deserve the job is because this was his first head coaching job. Now, there has been examples in the past where, there's certain people who got a head coach job and they never coached before. Okay, that's fine and dandy. But when you're, and here's the crazy thing, when you're Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, you talked about how there need to be more black coach or African-American coaches in the NBA. And then they turn around and say, we want Steve Nash to be our head coach, who is not African-American. Remember says correctly, I think he's Canadian, but still though, yeah. And then, yeah, he get the opportunity to coach a squad like that on paper is a championship contender. So that's why it's like, wait a minute. It's one thing he would have coached like the New Orleans Pelicans as his first head coaching job, or the Detroit Pistons, or the Cleveland Cavaliers, or dare I say, even maybe to a degree, the Denver Nuggets or the Utah Jazz or something like that. But to coach Brooklyn with KD and Kyrie, yeah, he didn't deserve that job. So, but how did he do? Well, he's not bad. He's not terrible. But the thing about him is defense is always lacking. That have always been a thing, even when he played in the NBA. So going back to the days when he was on Dallas and he was with Dirk Nowitzki, and that offense was highly explosive. And everybody was like, oh man, Dallas got the high offense, man, the high power offense. They're going to win a championship. And I looked at them and I'm like, they're not going to the finals. And guess what? They didn't go to the finals. And then what happened? Steve Nash went to Phoenix. And oh, guys, who remember that offensive juggernaut they had? Steve Nash with Amari Stoudemire and Shawn Marion and D'Antoni rather was their coach. And everybody liked them. And, you know, everybody was like, oh, man, they're going to go to the finals. They're going to win it all and stuff like that. And I looked at them and I'm like, they're not going to the finals. And guess what? They didn't go to the finals. Now, why is it that Steve Nash with Dallas and Steve Nash with Phoenix, playing that is, didn't go to the finals? Because neither one of those squads had any defense. Neither one. In fact, once Steve Nash left, Dallas did eventually get defense, and they got a championship out of it. Remember when LeBron joined D-Wade in Boston? Well, LeBron and Bosh joined D-Wade in Miami that first year. Miami lost to Dallas. That was after Steve Nash was there. He left. And then Dallas won a championship. So, yeah, Steve Nash in defense does not go well. And like even with him coaching Brooklyn, Steve Nash in defense did not go well because it was non-existent. And all these years, I look at this Brooklyn Nets squad and I said, they're not going to the finals because they don't have defense. And what happened? They didn't go to the finals. And as far as we know, they're not going to the finals. So there you go with that. Now, in terms of them trying to bring in Ime Udoka, apparently he had ties with certain members of the team. Like he had ties with Ben Simmons. He had ties with Kyrie. I believe he had ties with James Harden. So, yeah, there's some familiarity there to a degree. But it's still not enough to turn this team around and to say, oh, they're a title contender again, or whatever the case may be. No. Why did I say that? Well, the number one reason is because this team is injury prone. Like I said near the beginning of this video, Ben Simmons is injured again. So there's that. And then, you know, you probably say, well, wait a minute, what about Kyrie? Well, we talked about how Kyrie missed a bunch of games. In fact, I think he missed, like, throughout his career, he missed like 60 to 70-something% of his games. I don't remember what the exact number is. I do know it's over 50. It's over 55% of his career. He missed games. And granted, ever since he, joined Brooklyn, he had issues with the incident that happened at Capitol Hill. There was the whole COVID situation where he didn't want the team to play in the bubble. And, he didn't want to get vaccinated. So he had to sit out, and all this stuff. And yeah, that resulted in him missing games. Well, guess what? He played in other teams. He played with Cleveland. He was drafted by Cleveland. He played in Boston. And he was still missing games during those times. And it wasn't because of the nonsense that he caused him to miss games when he was in Brooklyn. Why was that? Because during those times, he was injured. And yeah, he still be getting injured. Now, as far as we know, he hasn't been injured this year at the moment in time. But if he were to get through this entire season without suffering a major injury, then we could talk and say, oh, he's not injury prone anymore. KD been injury prone ever since his last hurrah with the Golden State Warriors. That injury when they took on Toronto in the finals and they lost. And then he missed a whole year when he joined Brooklyn. He sat out for the whole year. And then he came back and he got injured again and again. As a matter of fact, last year, apparently he was having an MVP type season. And then what happened? He got injured. And Brooklyn went from a team that was second in the standings and was on their way to getting the #1 seed in the East, and they dropped. They dropped so fast, so by the time KD came back, they barely made the playoffs. They had to go through the play-in tournament, and they made the playoffs. So, yeah. And even not just the star players and their all-star player and Ben Simmons, but some of the role players. Like I said, it's either Joe Harris or Steph Curry, the younger brother of Steph Curry. One of them is injured and still out to this day. And I think it's Steph Curry, excuse me. But Joe Harris is also injury prone as well. Both of them are. So they have a lot of injuries with that. So, and then you got the issue of, well, will Kyrie and KD come back after the season's over? Because in KD's case, I don't remember what his exact contract situation is. So I don't remember if he's have a player option where he can decide to come back for one more year or not. I don't remember. Or if this is, no, actually, I think this is the first of his 4-year contract. That's right. He renewed. And this is the first year of his 4-year contract. So next year, he may request a trade again. In regards to Kyrie, this is his last year. So this is the year where he needs to be in his best behavior, play ball, and play to the highest potential so he can get a new contract and get that money. But because of the anti-Semitic stuff or whatever the case may be, I apologize if I messed that scenario up. But because of that situation, Brooklyn might not want to keep him. So I'm not saying they're going to trade him because I don't think anybody in the league would want to bring in Kyrie. But at this moment in time, Kyrie coming back to Brooklyn is not looking good. It's not looking good. So, and I don't think as good of a coach as Ime Udoka, I don't think even he could turn this around and make this team a title contender, make this team a contender to go to the Eastern Conference Finals. And they could barely make the playoffs or make the play-in tournament. It's not looking good for the squad. Either way, I could care less because I'm more about that Detroit Pistons. But at the end of the day, it's not looking good for this squad right here. And I'm going to call it a wrap. So with all that said, y'all know who this is. This is boy New J Gatsby, a.k.a. New Steve Nash, saying peace out, y'all, and I'll see y'all next time. Yeah.